the common consensus right now on the market is that if you want to interact with any native smart device feature, well, smart device might be phones, watches, tablets, VR headsets, whatever comes next, you essentially have to build a native application for different reasons. Like it's vendor locking, it's any kind of not polluting the web kind of standards, integrating custom functionality, which then don't work. We've been in that world with IE back in the day, so I think it's good that it's not happening. But it also creates a limitation that whenever you want to integrate with such a technology, you have to build a native application. And once you go down the path and start offering it to your customers, then you have to maintain different platforms like Android, iOS. Well, luckily only two, but then if you go to Android, you have more granularity. So essentially, that's the problem. And the idea I had was, well, why can't this be simplified? And why you have SaaS for everything?
The Research Labs podcast by Sunday Pajamas.
Well, it is so nice to see you again. It was really wonderful to actually get to meet you in San Francisco like a month ago. And I think there are so many stories that you have shared already about your experiences of not just building products, but also pitching products in San Francisco. And so I was wondering maybe you could tell us what you think is few of the most important things about you, about what you are doing, or anything of your choice, quite frankly.
Okay, well, hello and thank you for having me. I think it was more than a month at this point, and just that time flies. But not to pick any fight. I guess what might be interest of you, I'm in IT for quite a while. I'm a tech guy. I started, I think, more than 20-ish years ago, and counting the companies, I was kind of involved in terms of setting up and running. Because I think it was like three, or let's say this is the third company I'm kind of like running or co-founding and trying to make work. Apart from other companies I've been employed at, and I guess as we discussed like shortly before, I'm a father. I'm a father of one, and trying to do all this founding journey on the side of raising my kid.
I see. And what would you say is more fulfilling? Because
Oh, definitely. Yeah, go on.
I have I don't know yet, but I have read that being a parent is it just beats everything in the world out there.
As you can hear, I was going to jump in straight away. Yes, it does. I've been looking forward to that for quite a while. I've been ready before my wife, which is unusual, but yeah. And I mean, it's the most amazing thing ever, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So yeah, definitely being a parent, no doubt.
I see. And was it very natural and smooth for you and your wife to decide to have a kid, or was there like a confusion in the sense, oh, I want to start a company, should we do it right now, like, or how was that
Okay,
conversation like?
so it wasn't a straightforward decision, but it had nothing to do with the company.
I see.
So it was more about, as mentioned, I was ready. I think there is no right time to have a baby apart from now, because there are always going to be reasons why not rather than why yes, and it's just a matter of, okay, let's just go for it. It took a bit of a while for my wife to get ready, but I'm not sure. Hopefully she's not going to be listening to this one. Don't know how much personal information should or could I share. But in terms of running a company alongside it, that wasn't really a tough decision because it was pretty much my decision in the sense that it's something I have to do. Uh, I'm gonna do it this time around, and I set certain time and I guess budget constraints. We agreed on that from the beginning, and then that was it. So we made sure that we are fine throughout this duration, like financially and from security point of view. And then we have some kind of a safety nest and a backup plan. So that's all in place, and then it was just off you go, pretty much.
That's very interesting. So when you say you set up a budget, is was the thinking more like, okay, we can allocate X percentage of our total savings for trying out a new company, so that the Y percentage is there for everything else?
Not necessarily. I think the thinking was more about what is our monthly spending, then what is our yearly spending. Uh, Looking at the savings, looking at some other incomes I still have from like my previous company, and being like, okay, like for how long we can last with this without impacting our future, like our biggest savings, which are going, towards the house or bigger purchases, and then when it'll start becoming a problem in the sense that we have to start like scaling down the budgeting resources. So that's the financial planning, essentially.
And how would that thought process all does it impact, first of all, how you, let's say, think about the product and the company when you have like a understanding as to what that amount is? Like does that play a very big role in the product decisions, or not really, according to you? For you, I would say.
It does, but it plays a negative role. I'm not sure if that's the answer you're
Oh.
expecting. At least in my case, it plays a very negative role because comparing this experience to my previous experiences.
Mhm.
By the way, maybe a little background. This is the first time I'm the solo founder or the main kind of guy running the whole show. And before that, I was a co-founder. I was usually technical co-founder running the company alongside with some other people.
Wow.
So there was different share of responsibilities and scope of responsibilities. Um, Coming back to your question is knowing that I have a certain time and runway and there is
Mm.
a plan B and there is a certain kind of a plan impacted the whole journey in the sense that I it wasn't a sense of urgency, which is something which I would say is absolutely necessary to actually be pushing to succeed. It's gonna come up to a year since I'm been doing this, and I definitely can sense I could have cut corners, go faster, do different things in different order, and have more success at this point. I haven't done that because for a long time I didn't feel like I have to, because there's a plan. I'm kind of like going according to the plan, and even if things don't necessarily work out, there's something else to do. Which in the previous cases there was never plan B. It was just like it's happening, it's this, or I don't even think about what's next. It's just this. Uh,
I see.
so to answer your question, it
Very
had
interesting.
an impact and a negative one.
Really? And do you say it's negative as of today, and you might conclude something else going forward? Or you
So
think the
it's
overall
negative in a
impact
sense
has
that
been negative?
uh, like overall so far, like it's not the end. I'm
Okay.
not calling any shots and stuff. There's still a lot
Right.
to do and a lot to prove. But I thought I'm gonna be further along the lines compared to where I'm right now. And when I look back for reasons why I'm not there yet, is simply because I haven't done certain decisions. I didn't push hard on things which would have brought me there. And the reason for that is because I didn't feel the pressure. I was joking around like I'm somewhere between the hobbyist and a founder. I'm doing what I enjoy and sometimes prioritize the fun work over the necessity. And that's simply because I don't have this maybe financial need at this point. I know it will come, but
Right.
the point where it comes, it's planned for later. If that makes sense. If it wasn't planned, it would be there all the time.
I see. And so how does the trip to San Francisco kind of add to this thought process? Now that it's been more than a month now, do you think it was an accelerant, or do you think it was something else? Like there was an opportunity that might be leveraged in a better way, probably.
If I will be completely honest, I think it was more of a distraction at this point rather than the acceleration. So it
Interesting.
was I had some optimistic goals and targets, but it was pretty much a coincidence that I was able to go to San Francisco due to other things which happened. I was able to join certain program which allowed me to travel and then sponsor the trip or part of the trip. And it was essentially now or never. Okay, let's go now. If it was something I was planning and fully budgeting for, I would not do it now. I would postpone it towards like beginning of next year, maybe mid next year, when I'm more ready product wise and I test different sales strategies. So from this point of view, it was more of a distraction. From the personal point of view and from any kind of like seeing the world and testing the waters. It was definitely a plus. Like it was always on my list to kind of go and experience. I guess like anyone in tech, it's kind of like you have to go and either you stay or you soak up the energy and bring it home and bring it back to your product, which definitely happened and boost my
Yes.
kind of excitement. But at a level or excitement for things which are not on the to-do list right now, if that makes sense. Sorry, I might be giving you all the wrong answers, but that's where I am.
I, I, I would not call them wrong answers per se. I
Unexpected.
what I'm really enjoying is that these are the kind of questions I have for a lot of people, but not necessarily I have an understanding of the thought process behind it. Because
Okay,
with most founders and most people, I only or everybody only gets to see the outcome of the dense thought process and not the thought process itself. So I am really loving this.
great.
Yeah. Very interesting. I would say I was curious about your previous companies as well. Also, I
Mhm.
think in the first conversation you mentioned that the current product and company is very much a product of your past experiences and what you had learned over the years. Uh, could you maybe share what you meant by that?
Okay. Very open-minded question. So stop me whenever you want.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess to touch on previous experience, like there were two maybe major companies that were involved, which made a certain amount of progress. I'm not going to count all the other attempts on the side, but the very first one was we tried to build the e-commerce kind of website or marketplace down in
mhm,
Australia, which
right,
was very interesting. So it was my first time trying to like co-run the company,
right,
and I guess the biggest learning from that was I'm trying to phrase it, but essentially there is no defined job for a founder, and founder has to do anything and everything. And I'm joking until now that basically the I distinctly remember, like when we rented office and stuff, and there was a time where like we had to change the bins, and it was like
right,
essentially like, well, there was no one else to do apart from me, so pick up like the dog, and bring in the new stuff. And until that moment, I was a young 20 something kind of ID person, also worked for a company where there was someone to do this stuff, and suddenly there was like, if you don't do this thing, nothing happens. And it's not about focusing only on the product or tech side; it's just basically doing everything. So that was a very humbling experience, and that's something which essentially stuck me throughout my journey. That there is no matter where you are, there is always work outside your main scope of work, and it
right,
especially applies to founders, where it's essentially the scope is whatever you define, because there's no one else to do it for you. So that was maybe the first learning. Again, I don't know how deep it is, but that's what stuck with me. The second one was the second company. There was a company we ran in Czech Republic, and that ran for a longer time. Was that the company I personally run it fully remotely, and I'm jokingly saying we are remote before it was cool, because it was pre-COVID, and we simply just run it because that was convenient to me. So it came all with all the problems of managing team and making sure that people actually like deliver and get together and are on the same page. On like at the time it was Skype before even Zoom kind of came to the
right,
picture and whatnot. Um, but the learnings, I guess that kind of thing was the perseverance, or essentially like
I see.
you have to push through to see the results. Like nothing comes cheap and easy. It's some of those things that I think for the first 2 or 3 years we didn't have any kind of like revenue and whatnot, because we're just like, okay, we're just gonna build it because we believe it's a product which has like market and customers. we didn't even knew about the right type of customer at the time, but we just keep pushing until we managed to kind of slightly pivot the product and find, let's say, you can call it gold mine, but it was slightly twisting the product, suddenly opened the door to the completely new market, and we were able to kind of dominate the market, if you can call it that way. So it was great experience about focusing only on one thing at a given time
Right.
and just pushing through until you kind of physically can. And it came with a lot of, I guess, harsh decision sacrifices, I guess tough conversations back home about what's important in life and what should happen when. But fortunately enough, it turned out well. Unfortunately enough, it was only in a small limited market that restricted our growth and essentially our product and revenue growth, which was essentially the reason why kind of like moved on, because we were not able to. There was no purpose of scaling the company apart from like sales.
I see.
Okay,
And
I
when
guess, yeah.
when you say when you say a market, could you maybe share a little bit more about how you think of a market and what are the characteristics of a market?
That's almost like economical question or question for the economist. When I said market, I'm just trying to think what context did I use, but essentially for us, market was customers or companies who could essentially pay us for our product, and that to me defines the position of the product and then marketing. So we started we started the company as a B2C company, trying to sell the online like SaaS services to pretty much anyone and everyone who owned the property. So maybe a little bit of background that the company was in a kind of like a monitoring and processing kind of cadastral registrar, so data is about properties and ownership, and then providing like notifications upon changes in any of these data. Later, we expanded and added more different kind of government data sources. But originally, the idea was that we're going to monitor this online registrar and let you know if something happened to your property, in case you don't know, because I'm not going to allude to it, but there was potential that something could happen to your property without you not knowing. And the idea was that like anyone who owns a property might need to know that this is happening, because if something is happening without their knowledge, they can just lose the whole property. Uh, and later on, we pivoted to kind of B2B market, where we're selling this to and not necessarily companies, but they're like groups of people managing bigger properties like flats and buildings, and they need to have this information to make sure who to collect the rent from, and if someone gets into kind of bankruptcy or personal kind of insolvency on different problems, that they need to approach the government institution to kind of declare that they are somewhere in the road to get the money if things come to the worst. And they ended up being much more lucrative market, because we are able to
Interesting.
target them more closely, and obviously they have access to bigger budgets because they manage more properties and whatnot. But it was complete coincidence how we end up finding them. Actually, they found us rather than us them.
So, when you, for example, find a slightly different market than what your product was intended to serve,
Mhm.
how does the internal pivoting process look like? Does it look like a chaotic mess where everyone is running around trying to deliver something so that we can get more meetings? Or is it more strategic because you have kind of pivoted multiple times and you kind of have a knack for doing that sort of a thing?
So first of all, I cannot take as much credit as I would like to, because I was responsible for the technical part rather than for the positioning and marketing side. But obviously, I was involved in conversation, shaping the product and stuff. I guess the whole journey happened that we noticed anomalies in our data. So I guess the important thing is to look at your data, you look at your sales, look at your product, and to see what's happening, what's working, what not. And obviously, like once you start having outliers in terms of orders, which are like magnitude figures, like you're curious, who are these customers? Why are they buying it? And can we find more of them? Because getting one bigger customer is like much more easier than getting the X times small customer. And that's where we kind of found a couple of them, and we just essentially reach out to them and try to talk to them. So, like, happy you're using our products. Like, why using it? Like, how are you using it? How is it helpful? Can we do something to improve it? And that's where we learn that's the use case of which they describe to us. Oh, this is something we have to do, and we have to do manually. But thankfully there's a tool you're providing. It would be easier if we could do this, but like we can use your tool as it is. So that initial impulse was enough for us to go out and learn about this type of customers. Like, okay, are there more of these? Is this a real problem? Is there a real solution on the market? Is there something we can either recommend them or copy or implement? And then we look at the product from that use case and from the customer's point of view. I mean, okay, if customer like this approach our current product, what do they need? What are missing? What needs to change? And then how much effort is it to actually give it to them? So, and then we put all this information together and realize, okay, well, if we do only a bit here, only a bit there, only a bit there, we can invest this time and effort right now and see if it works. Essentially trial and error. And we did a couple of product changes. We did some marketing campaign, and suddenly we realized, okay, we are successful with these customers. We don't have any competition. There's kind of hole in market, and essentially we just double down because in I don't know what the time frame was, but let's say in a month of that effort, we managed to get almost as many customers as from the other channel for the whole year.
Very interesting. And how long in terms of weeks does it take to figure that out, build out the new features and deliver? Or how long did it take you guys to do it?
Okay, because the first question depends on your team, obviously, and the market and competition and whatnot. For us, because we work in parallel, like I was responsible for like and technical side, and my partner was responsible for outreach and marketing. We kind of like set up to do this in parallel, and as I mentioned, approximately in a month, we were in a position where we could judge it worked. From my point of view, it meant we altered the product in terms of inputting the data. So previously it was targeted to like customers like you and me, where usually own one or two properties. If you include your parents, maybe three. So the way you input the data is way different compared to someone inputting like 20 flats. So we changed the tool in a sense that they can just give us the minimum amount of information and we could just process that. So that saved up onboarding time and any kind of like, I guess this, you have these fancy terms like the time to aha moment or time to value and whatnot. So we're able to kind of improve the product to get any customer to that point. And the second part was essentially my partner just kind of try to reach out to other potential customers and just show them, okay, this is what we have. Is this something useful? And once you match the product and the demo or sales cycle together, was just like, this is a problem you have. This is a solution, and this is how easy it's to implement it. And then you just look at numbers. How many conversations do you have from those meetings? That looked promising. I guess better than we expected. As any experiment, you start with certain expectations, you evaluate and decide, and you move on.
And how much work is required to sync the product team, the marketing team, and also the onboarding team? Or is that almost a new task when managing three teams at the same time? Or how would you think about that?
The answer to this question is it hugely depends on the size of the company, size of the teams, and I would say product almost doesn't matter. So that beauty of small companies at the beginning is usually you have all these people sitting in the same room. Sometimes you have one person doing all these three things. Well, like right now I'm doing that. So the whole meeting happens in your head and in a split of a second, and it's hard to disagree because you just disagree with yourself. In that particular scenario, it was, funnily enough, the only blocker was the remote part, because we had to kind of like get together and just kind of get a meeting and understand what is it that we need and what are the constraints, either deadline or budget wise or anything else, and then off you go and just like report on the progress. The great thing is if you have funders and if coming back to learnings, it's two more things is like having trust is hugely important. Meaning like if you just talk about stuff and you ask me for a feature and I'm gonna tell you it's gonna take months, you coming back and questioning, well, why don't we do it in a week? Well, like we either could or not could. Like it's a certain amount of okay, this is the amount of time we invest in, and then or we do it differently and we can just do it in a week, but we are losing this and just like let's decide. And once we make a decision, just like you don't message me every day like is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready? Like, well, no, because I said a week. The another learning is coming back to is deadlines exist for reasons, and that sounds super obvious. But
Right.
talking to technical and engineering people, which are essentially spoiled from the point of view, the estimation of any project is bullshit because I don't know how long it's going to take because it was usually never been done before. I'm building something new, so I don't know. I can estimate, I can give you some approximation, but I cannot give you the deadline. And
Yeah.
me coming from the engineering or from technical point of view was always kind of luxury. Well, I just need as much time as I need, and I'll tell you when it's ready. But this does not work in a companies. You might know, like you have other
Yeah.
departments running like marketing campaigns and running another budget plannings, and then just seeing the impact of being delayed on one
Right.
end on to the other team. Like it did happen early in days. We lost some marketing campaigns and some money simply because we were not ready. But was
Right.
definitely my fault. Uh, in a sense that I underestimated the importance of deadlines and just like overshoot or invest it into development and making features better or as good as I thought they need to be. But then at the end of the day, if you just don't launch it, it doesn't matter how good it is. So kind of forgot
Right.
what we are talking about. A lot of tangents, but essentially, um, the trust came to the point that we simply had to find the agreement on what is it that we want to deliver to test that these customers are right for us. What is the minimum amount essentially? You discuss the minimum. You never discuss what's the maximum because then you can discuss on in 10 years we can launch something because you can always add stuff. So it's always the discussion about what's the minimum that we should do or have to do to see some results from the experiment. Otherwise, there's no point in running the experiment at all. Uh, yeah, hopefully I answer your question.
I would say I was thinking when you were describing the sales side of things, the technical side of things, the point about deadlines. I am listening to that and I'm thinking, okay, you're kind of describing a scenario where you are getting stretched and pulled in multiple directions, and you not only have to communicate with, for example, the marketing team, the deadline, let's say, because they are very much dependent on what you are saying to kind of plan their operations. And then once you commit to that, you also have to do your own job, which is okay, I said 2 weeks. Now, how do I actually figure this out in 2 weeks from a technical standpoint? And I have faced this problem multiple times myself, where if let's say you're talking to a customer, then the perspective of dealing with a customer is very different than the perspective of actually building the thing, right? And there might be situations where there are discrepancies in both of them, because it is not the customer's job to really care about the technical challenges that you are facing as a team, right?
Correct.
Nor it is the marketing team's job to think about that. So from as a technical lead or as a CTO, how do you kind of tackle that situation? Do you have a way figured out in your mind where you're able to look at all these chaotic discrepancies and be calm and make less mistakes? Because I don't think, at least from my perspective, there is a scenario where you can make no mistakes.
Well, that would be ideal. No, there isn't such a thing. I guess whoever invents that is going to be a next billionaire or trillionaire. What is the fancy richness level these days? Um, uh, I guess you have to embrace the chaos. Like there's not such a thing that without the chaos. That's one thing. The other thing is there is no simple way to learn this apart from just trying it and experiencing it. And as painful as it might be, it's just you just have to go there and get your hands dirty and you either survive or try the next time. So that's very maybe philosophical answer. But that's the way to do it. Now there are things which helps. Obviously, like communicating and over communicating, obviously to the point that's not that detrimental to actually any progress. Like if you message someone every 5 minutes, then they're never gonna do their job. But sending proactively the updates or highlighting if there are some issues that might be things might be delayed or things might get derailed helps. Also knowing the reason why you're building stuff. And this is maybe another learning which helped me later in the more corporate jobs I had, and then coming back to where I am, is that having this knowledge and a sense of purpose. Like every code or every software exists to serve someone, and if you be very, very pragmatic, it serves to make money. And coming from a technical point of view, you write code because if you're like kind of like passionate engineer or like self-engineer as I was, is you write code because it's fun, it's beautiful, it does the things, it creates something which never existed. But that's not the job. That's not work. That's hobby. You can do it on your side where there are no constraints. Anything else works under the constraints we just discussed. Meaning that you can cut certain corners, you can build things in a certain way. I guess the whole agile kind of development thing was built around like how to build things differently, not I guess from 0 to 100%, but like an increment. At any given point, you can just say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we're gonna ship. Is it what we discussed at the beginning? No. But does it do the job? Well, maybe it does. Yeah. Maybe it looks ugly. Maybe it only works in a certain scenario and everything else breaks. You know, marketing can make anything pretty. Just add some colors on it and just add some paint, and it looks good. So there's always a compromise how you can go around the things, as long as you know where you are. Obviously, like there are hard deadlines essentially. Like if we are under certain attack, or if database goes down, or if you're using AWS and cloud platform and they go down, that's going to cause the delay, which is going to derail everything else. And then that just, you cannot avoid these things. But if you let your marketing team, okay, this has happened, like not going to make deadline, do you have a capacity 1 or 2 more days to push whatever you do? And they might not. And sometimes it's just better to drop the project halfway if you can't make it. Just okay, but eat the loss and do something else, because if you know that's not happening, that's not happening.
I see. It. Do you think to be able to operate in a scenario like that, you have to build a mental model of what is going on so that you can kind of map out all the different activities that are happening across all the teams and the customers, and then decide how you are going to affect change across all of them?
Yes, to some extent, but not only that. Again, depends on the company, it depends on the situation. But like sometimes you can outsource this by kind of hiring people you can trust. So you don't have to have the full concept in your head. You can just have a concept of that's the person in charge. They're
I
responsible
see.
for deadline, and it's going to happen because they said so. And then you can abstract, as in programming, you just abstract layers up and up until you come to the point that I guess any bigger CEOs in bigger companies, they don't operate on a level that they understand everything and everything. They trust their teams and they set the general direction and just make sure everyone is going the same course. In startups, however, it definitely helps. I think it, selfishly, I guess I would say, having a technical founder helps to compass all these skills in your
Mhm.
head, because technically any software, any product is organized chaos with all the edge
Right.
cases and moving parts, and especially these days with I guess all the clouds and other integrated services. Anything can move at any different time in finding
Mhm.
different directions. So you should build your own product model in your head. Running a company is just another video game which you feed into this model and run in your head. So yes, it does help. Is it necessary? Sometimes you can get lucky and you can
Right.
just as people say, wipe code it. You can
Wing
wipe
it.
fund it or whatever.
Right.
I would not say that's the way to do it. But again, like there's no single model how to run a company. So that's another funny kind of meme thing. Like anyone who tries to tell you or teach you like this is the way to run a company, just run away, because it worked for them. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Right.
If it works, it's why let them do it again.
Right. And you said something interesting where you talked about abstraction. That in software you abstract. Similarly, when you're running the company, you also abstract. That kind of makes me think. Do you think the fact that you have a computer science background, in the sense you have built software for many many years now, the lessons and concepts of computer science also get translated into how you manage and run a company, and maybe also how you manage and run your life overall?
it definitely influence each other. Um, if that's the question, yes, that obviously those things overlaps and then influence each other. Uh,
Yeah.
is it helpful? I would say yes, selfishly, but again, it has pros and cons. There are certain things
Right.
which running your life as you would run or think about your product is very uh, not relationship friendly kind of way of running things.
Right.
There's a life is different. Life is definitely much more colorful, and you cannot put rules and constraints on things and invent rules for every new scenario as you would in programming. Like you find edge case, you write like scenario how to deal with it. Either you write code or you write documentation, and you just move on. This
Right.
does not work in life, and I must say, yeah, it caused some fun like interactions back home as well. Like being told not to run my life in such a robotic way. Let's put it that way.
Right.
In terms of running company, again, you're dealing with people to most extent, which make things way different compared to like programs or programming labs. So you cannot write a manual how to deal with certain situations because every human different is different, every interaction different. And I'm talking like for humans internally, like as employees, and humans as customers. So it does help, but it's not a silver bullet. Like you will not succeed only with these things. Again, coming back to what I said previously, be aware of anyone telling you how to do things because
Right.
this is my own experience, basically.
Right. The one thing that I found a little funny is that you characterized it as humans inside the company and humans outside the company. And I was thinking that's exactly how a software engineer would think, because
Okay.
that's exactly how I would put it actually. And I'm not proud of it.
Okay, so you're essentially criticizing what I said.
No, that's
Could
that's
be.
how I would organize it in my head,
Mhm.
and I think I have been, I would not say criticized, but it was politely pointed out that there are other ways to do it.
Definitely.
You're gonna see what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah,
No, of course. And there's also another struggle of translating what's in your head
yeah,
into
yeah,
one hand on one hand code into words and in kind of directions or plans. Again, like within your own teams
yeah.
and within your equals, either on the certain exec level or down to your teams when you pass any kind of assignments. Uh, that's I'm not gonna lie, I find it easier to talk to engineers and decide on what to build rather than talking to people in sales and marketing, trying to explain certain constraints. Again, you have to do it, and the only way to do it is the experience. Just go there, try it, and you will fairly quickly realize when someone just does not understand or what works, what doesn't.
I see. And since we are on the topic of taking things from one field and applying it to other, do you
Mhm.
find that happening to you when you are making decisions, for example? Like for right in the beginning when you were talking about allocating a percentage of total savings to founding a
Mhm.
company, that is a very formulaic, systematic, right, according to me, the right way of doing things. Because when you mentioned, yes, there was a allocation decision that was made to contain the chaos and not go completely out of control. I would think of that as a, it's an obvious step to do it. But do you necessarily think that's how most people go about it? Or do you find people in your life, in your family, for example, who would take that thought process and be like, I see what you're saying. That completely makes sense to me.
I haven't tried to run this by anyone within my family apart from my
Right,
wife. I guess
right,
there are certain decisions, certain thought processes which involves only me, or
right,
which involves people who have something to say in the decision. Um, I guess another thing which I learned previously in dealing with customers and more people is that people are very different, very strange sometimes,
Very, very different.
and
Yeah,
it's I guess to put it politely, it's a waste of time trying to understand them.
I
Sometimes it's
see.
just easier to just kind of nod along or just go and do it your way. So coming back, like specifically in this kind of thing, it's no one's else business to decide what I'm gonna do with, I guess, my life and my decision apart from me and my direct family, just my wife. I'm not even counting my parents because they done the job and now it's on me. Meaning seeking any kind of approval of I guess anyone else, it's almost pointless, if not again harmful to the whole decision itself. It just invites any doubts and yeah, I guess another thing is like at some point you have to make a decision and move on. And it doesn't necessarily mean the decision is right or not. You make a decision based on the information you have. And if you don't feel confident enough, which the confidence level, I guess, is different for any founders and any risk takers, but you reach a certain confidence level and just move on. Otherwise, you'll enter this paralysis of never deciding anything. So again, bit of a tangent, but
Very
I
interesting.
yeah, I would say I don't care what people say as much as I maybe should or could.
And have you interacted with engineers, founders, customers when they describe their way of thinking? You're like, that makes sense. That's how I would do it. Like, similar thought processes around you.
Sure. Yeah, I did because the most recent, and then I guess most recent example which stuck with me is the previous company where I was actually employed. I had a manager who was very very similar to me. It was almost like I was talking to myself, uh, which was interesting and funny because then I could observe and see how he interacted in a situation where I wasn't put in yet, or I could test essentially how, if there's something I'm not necessarily sure how I'd react, I could sometimes test it on him and just like expose the problem to him and being like, so what's your thinking? Without directly asking him. And then that kind of could give me either insight into, oh, okay, this is what I would do because he's almost the same as me, or maybe finding things where I disagree and then just dig into like, why do I disagree? What is it that he thinks differently? Meaning that there is something I could learn from. It might be more information, might be more experience, might be something else.
Very interesting. I would say that kind of brings me to the question, since we're discussing how you would, uh, first of all, categorize a problem, understand it, and then try to figure out how you are going to navigate the problem, which I think is the perfect segue to kind of talk about the product that you're building and the problem
Okay.
space that you are trying to think about and solve for.
Mhm.
Could you maybe share what was the process of, first of all, identifying that problem? Is that like an observation you made, let's say, while working on previous companies, or is it something that you came up with and you're like, okay, that sounds, there is something here?
So yeah, as we discussed this previously, just to explain to your listeners, you're not
Yeah,
a mind reader. It
right.
actually happened in a sense that I came across the problem in my previous company, which I tried to find a solution, and because I built something at the time, and then it stopped working, and then as life moved on, it kept the same thing at the back of my mind, and then because I didn't find any solution, and I was still interested in the domain, I decided to build a company or the product around it. Uh, Maybe be more specific about what's going on. What it is at that time the issue, the problem was that as we were running the company, we had a couple of internal metrics and statistics which were like a technical one, like any uptimes or health checks for the product, as well as business kind of strategy, like let's say how we're doing on revenue, how we're doing customers, are we on target, like this month, this week, was mostly about the revenue at the time. And I wanted a quick way of like glancing at this and seeing like where are we. We obviously had our own internal metrics, couple of pages which you had to kind of log in, go there, like read some charts and some numbers, and yeah, you could the information, but it was a bit tough. Not still tough. Like it was a lot of clicks, so I didn't always do it. And I thought like, okay, I'm using Whereas basically I'm using my phone, I slide my finger and I can see the weather at a given time, and there's no effort. I can just see it's gonna rain. It's gonna rain. Is it windy or not? I can see my calendar. Is there something running like in the next hour or not? I don't have to. I know I have an application. I can log in it, but I don't have to do any of this. I was thinking like, why can't I have the same thing on my phone? Just slide my finger and see. Okay, are we up? Are we down in terms of the systems? Is there an issue? Do I have to go and dig and do something else, or are we on target with kind of our revenue, which turns out to be a great kind of motivation booster, because as it goes in companies, like things goes up and down, and if you have moments where things are maybe not going as smoothly as you think, but then you look at your numbers and you realize, oh, actually we're making more money than we did last year. That means we are making more, creating more value, and we're making some more people happier, or making life easier for them. And then just, well, okay, there is a purpose to what you're doing, even though it's the most boring, I don't know, some database migration or whatever it's happening at a given time. I was like, well, okay, I mean, there's that part. So the issue was I wanted to bring this information to my phone, and there wasn't a quick way of doing this without actually building any mobile application. There are limitations on, I guess, iOS, Android, and different devices. At the time, I built a very quick hacky solution. I had to sign up for Apple developer account. So I'm the Apple fan. I'm running everywhere on Apple, but I had colleagues running on Android, and my wife's like the Android fan.
So to, I would say, go back to what we're discussing, you were describing the problem of bringing data from the SaaS to mobile apps and the limitations of Android and iOS.
Correct. Like bring the, let's say, internal dashboards or data from the internal dashboards on to the phone to have a quick glance at information, and being able to kind of get what you need at that given time, no matter where you are, and just move on and make a decision based on what you see. So as I was going to say, there are different limitations, starting with creating the iOS developer account, building the actual application itself, submitting to the store, going through the approvals, and getting it finally approved and download, and linking it with our dashboard, displaying the data, and then finally having the data there. That was a lot of work for, let's say, such a simple task. But yeah, I at the time I kind of did, because there was a need and whatnot. At the time, Apple was running the old version of widgets. I'm gonna go a little technical, but feel free to cut it out. And essentially, what was happening is you were able to create a small browser and wrap it within a widget. So the whole application was built around this. So you just supply the URL, you could cut the portion of the website you would want to see, and then that was displayed in the widget. So essentially, that was fairly easy implementation once this was built. And then we built like our own internal kind of like a endpoint in our dashboard, which was then displayed in my widget, and then distributed it to my team, and pretty much everyone like are using it, like engineers for the technical part, and my partner on the kind of like budgeting side. I don't know who he shared with it. Then Apple just decided to kind of upgrade the widget system and just kill this whole thing, and then this workaround that this tech wasn't possible anymore. So we kind of like lived without it. As in any kind of even slightest improvement, there was always like a complaints, like, why doesn't it work? Why, when can you have it back? But there was no, I guess it was not worth it to invest the time and effort to rebuild this at a given time, because we reached pretty stable point in the company. I was just like, just look at the dashboard. If you need to, I don't personally have the need, so there is no need for me to build this on my spare time, and then I'm not going to allocate the company time of building this. So essentially that was the need, that was the interest, and then as I moved on and went to get more kind of like a corporate exposure and experience, I was trying to figure out how companies actually deal with this. And the common consensus right now on the market is that if you want to interact with any native smart device feature, well, smart device might be phones, watches, tablets, VR headsets, whatever comes next, you essentially have to build a native application for different reasons. Like it's vendor locking, it's any kind of not polluting the web kind of standards, integrating custom functionality, which then don't work. We've been in that world with IE back in the day, so I think it's good that it's not happening. But it also creates a limitation that whenever you want to integrate with such a technology, you have to build a native application. And once you go down the path and start offering it to your customers, then you have to maintain different platforms like Android, iOS. Well, luckily only two, but then if you go to Android, you have more granularity. So essentially, that's the problem. And the idea I had was, well, why can't this be simplified? And why, like, you have SaaS for everything? I guess a simple example, you have SaaS to send emails, right, these days. And something I'm trying to use for less technical people is like, if you want to send email, you essentially hook up into the existing software. You get some configuration and off you go. You're sending emails. You don't have to get your own server, set up the software, set up all the infrastructure for it, because that exists. Someone else built it. So why can't the same thing exist for mobile features? And essentially, that's where the Appio, as the name of the company, came to picture, and decided to build the product around this. Yeah, that's how it came to be.
Very interesting. Why can't we simply extend your product and leverage mobile features across all the platforms without having
Correct.
to spend the time, money, developer cost to actually build all of it?
Yeah, well, that's actually that's the idea, that the one of the taglines or marketing I tried to run at the very beginning was that Appio is the missing API for mobile features, and then it can be like, well, what is mobile feature? What's missing API? But essentially, the idea was that whatever you can build with the web technologies, you can build with Appio without the need to invest into your mobile teams and with hiring or engaging with like internal kind of agencies building your own native application just for the sake of, let's say, I want to send push notifications or I want to display widgets. These days, people are pretty good with mobile optimized websites and dashboards and stuff. So you can get a lot of information from just opening the product in mobile Safari or Chrome browser on Android. Yet you cannot plug it into the ecosystem of these maybe more native and rich features. And now you can with Appio.
Very, very interesting. And when you have an idea like that, like, how do you, okay, you can build the thing on your own, but how do you even start a conversation with other team members? Like, how do you explain it to customers who might be very conventionally minded, where there is literally, from what I feel, from the kind of conversations I have read online and also in SF, that a lot of people are very religious about the tech stack they are committed to, because they have spent many years in learning the tech. And when you come along and tell them that, you know what, you might not even require it. So how does that process of osmosis almost starts, where you come up with a radically insane idea like that
Mhm.
and kind of try to pitch to people that, all that work you have been doing for so long, yeah, we don't need to do all of that anymore?
So I guess maybe it's like correction. I would not try to go and convince someone to change whatever they build. If someone already built their own mobile application, I mean that'll be superior to what Appio can provide at this point, and just be like, okay, use it. The conversation we can have is, well, how much time and money did it take you to build this? You hired people, you paid for the product. Again, you get to the certain point. Okay, now you have a product. Like, does it work on iOS? Does it work on Android? Like, how much time do you spend maintaining it? What happens if Apple just decide to revamp the whole UI with this liquid gas, whatever it is right now? Do you support it? Do you support like all the devices? Like all this kind of conversation. And if either you do it, and then you can put certain kind of monetary value on that, and then we can have different discussions. Like, you can, okay, it costs you X, and I can tell you, well, you can have it for fraction of X, because we can take care of it for you. And the conversation might be very interesting. And if you're talking to engineers, again, coming to the point of you building things, why are you building things, and what's the purpose of building things? If you're building things for the sake of love for technology, or for the sake of like, okay, this is my hobby, I'm not gonna be in the argument. It's essentially like, okay, it's your baby. You're gonna play with it. You work with it. If you're talking to more kind of business focused, even technologist, you can always put the monetary time value on it. It's the everlasting discussion, like build or outsource. And it's like, why do you focus on something which is not your core business, where you can get something? You essentially hire someone to maintain the part of your product for you for like essentially fraction of the cost. a whole build of whole idea of SaaS is that you provide a feature and you scale it across so many people or so many customers that you make it prohibitively cheap for anyone else to build it in house. That's the whole idea. So the only difference here is that it's in a domain which where it wasn't possible before. And coming to answer maybe the second question, the struggle is finding. It's more about the positioning rather than the product itself. So it's a combination of stubbornness of me building something and believing that there is a usage for that or use for it on the market, and then finding the right positioning to find the right customer at the right time. And this is coming back to what I was talking about. The summary, this maybe wasn't the right time for me right now because talking to people face to face, it's really hard to find companies which identify the need for implementing any kind of mobile feature and yet not investing into any mobile development. Because right now, those two decisions, I think we discussed this before, but those two decisions happens simultaneously at this point. Our Appio sits, it's right in the middle, meaning the job is to kind of expand the time of, okay, I have a need for any mobile features. I'm going to evaluate what the options are. Maybe I heard about Appio from podcasts like yours or somewhere else, and know there's other option than actually building things. People might know about like no code or like low code kind of tools and builders. When they're already thinking about this kind of solution, that's where Appio comes in and differentiate against those. And then that's where I can maybe win the sale. Meeting people face to face, obviously, I define very narrow scope or time and kind of requirement. And meeting people face to face who have the feature requirement and I'm talking to them at the right amount of right time. It's close to impossible. So the proper marketing strategy is kind of do it online, like target the people where they are, where they're thinking about this problem, where they're searching the solutions, and then expand from there. So it was a little too early for me to talk to the customers right now, but it was also valuable to hear the responses. In a sense of essentially, like, do people think it's completely useless, or is there something
Oh,
else they would use, or again, there's another story, like no one will tell you what you're working on is stupid because they want to be rude, but there's a way of around. You have to try to get, the information out. Or is there another solution they could think of? Is there something else they could use in the market, which I'm not aware of because obviously, like, I'm limited in terms of time and knowledge and willingness of searching for solutions. And having all these conversations with different, like, people, again, technical, non-technical, essentially gave me that kind of energy that if it was the right time for them, that they would be facing this problem, they would at least consider Appio. They would not simply just dismiss it because of different reasons. So that's good enough for me to go on and keep finding the right customers.
very
Again, very
interesting.
long answer to your
So
question. Sorry.
I think it's perfect. I imagine it is a very complex thing to invent something new for the very first time. Invention itself is in my mind almost like an impossible job. And then to communicate that and convince people that this is a better way of doing things than what they are currently used to. And I think the thing that you mentioned, that you sit right in the middle where a company identifies that they need to use native features and then they decide to invest in native features.
Correct. Yeah. So I need to that's the education and marketing, but I need to expand the time as much as I can, I guess, by spreading the word or integrating with other, like, there are different ways how can this be done. And obviously I'm trying all of them.
Right.
And then providing the right, I guess, value for the right amount of money. So, funnily enough, the previous company we were running, we also essentially invented the new category, new product, because it didn't exist before. So I went through a similar experience before.
Mhm.
The main difference was I had a partner who had experience in marketing and kind of like he knew how to accelerate things, which obviously helped to see it done from the sideline. But this is a different product, more technical product, different markets, different marketing channels. So it's yet again the same problem of trying to promote something which essentially didn't exist or didn't exist in this form. Um,
So, what were the most prominent, let's say, top three challenges that came in the previous product?
um,
When not in the invention part, in the adoption part from from a customer standpoint?
So I would say there was the definitely the education part, like letting people know, and education from the domain or problem point of view, but also from the solution point of view. So the whole thing came on top of like legal changes which happened at that time in the country, and a lot of people didn't even know that this is a problem which needs to be solved. So there was the first part was essentially spreading information that it is a problem. It has existing cases where it impacted people, and the impact is pretty huge. Like you losing your property, it's a pretty big thing. Like if you think about, like, let's say you own the house and tomorrow you don't because something happened somewhere digitally and with no fault of yours. Now you're like suing someone to just get your property, and it's like, and then they're telling you to move out because you're not the owner anymore. So the impact is huge. So the whole education part was. Uh, you can almost say like letting people know this is happening, somewhat scaring them in terms of what the impact is, and then jointly or not necessarily jointly providing the solution.
Right.
There's also like a tricky line how you can propose the problem and or like explain the problem, propose a solution, because then if you do it at the same time, it might have a negative impact and so and so. But the whole idea was, yeah, it was two-pronged education, and then solution was essentially showing people like how do we solve it and why is it good enough.
Right.
That's result, because you're learning, yeah, about the whole thing right now, and is it's how do you evaluate the
Right.
solution for the problem you didn't even know existed yesterday. So
Right.
that was interesting. That's why it was much easier to pivot and sell to more of these, let's say, B2B kind of companies, because
Right.
they a different set of issues they already were trying to solve. This was also an issue for them, but slightly new.
And what you're describing right now, that this was the problem. We had to educate the people while making
Mhm.
sure we don't pitch the solution in a way that they think about the product negatively. That must have taken some time, right? Maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
It took a while. That's why I mentioned like we didn't make any profits. Well, we didn't make any revenue for the first, I think it was 6 7 months. But you can argue we also were building the product. But even after the product was launched, I think it was a couple of months, maybe three months, where we didn't like kind of make any revenue whatsoever. And then was a couple of years, I think 2 or 3 years, I mentioned that we didn't make any profit. Uh, that was again. It's the whole thing is it's I'm going to paraphrase it, but like I heard someone saying that any idea, any product can be successful. It's just a question of the time. So some products can be successful within a month, with some within a year. Now with in AI, we can see within days. Some might take maybe a lifetime, maybe two lifetimes. The reason they fail is not because they were bad products or whatnot, which might be, but even a bad product can succeed. It's just the time needed for it to succeed was longer than someone was willing to invest. Uh,
Right.
we were pretty much full on that project, and there were like a certain amount of interest and signs that we was enough for us to push forward. Plus the belief, and again those kind of stubbornness that this is a real problem. There are real impacts on real people, and if not us, someone else will come and solve it. And then like we already started, so why not continue? Because yeah, we are not like out of money completely.
Right. And what would be the lesson for Apptio from obviously the past experience, but also the feedback that you're getting right now, that would uh, change how you think about it, let's say for the year 2026? Like what's in store for 2026 basically?
Well, that's a very good question. Hopefully, making some profit, but let's not jump ahead. Um, I guess the obvious lesson is just don't run the company or don't run the product in the unproven market. Like period. If you're gonna do it, make sure you understand that it's a long run, not like a short run. Even though it applies to any product, but especially for product in a new category. And uh, I guess yeah, just try to figure out like how to overcome this as quickly as possible. As mentioned, we had some kind of thesis before how and what could work for B2C customers. Some would took us a while, but then we found easier path to convince different people with much shorter message, and we just went full on that one. Not because we didn't believe the first product was not successful, but it was just easier and was better value, a better ratio of like invested time and energy into like what we got as a return back. And that those two products kind of work hand in hand together because we didn't kill the first product, just to run around. And the campaigns we were running for the second product kind of helped educate people. So we're still, companies or like customers coming in for the first product. But we would never find the second group of customers if you didn't try the first thing. So it's like start with something and just like try until you can. If you can, I mean, that's the beauty of software or any kind of product is you can always just let it run and park it, and then come back to it later, or just like see what happens. So I guess you asked for what's in store for 2026 for Appio. I have plenty other marketing campaigns I'm planning to run and just try two different approaches. If none of them works, that's the positive side. The idea is that okay, I'm gonna figure out like how to find the right customer at the right time. If for whatever reason not, plan B is just okay. That Appio is not going anywhere. It's going to exist, and I'm going to work on the sideline on it while I maybe recharge and rethink like what's next. So that's low and high kind of plans for 1,000. It's a very again engineering pragmatic way of thinking about it, like setting up the constraint where it could go, and it'll land somewhere in between, and just adjust as you go. And as I'm speaking, is there's another learning which I think it's fairly interesting, at least it got me as a surprise, but since then I've seen it many times repeat, is no matter what plan or what deadline you put in place, it will never work. So you will always go over. So let's say you have I guess you have a budget, like you set a budget for a year, or you set the target, okay, by this time I want to have this amount of revenue, this amount of customers, whatnot. You'll never reach that, and you have to be kind of fine with it. And this is almost like lying to yourself in a sense, but the idea is that you set these targets of these goals with, I guess, usually set them optimistically, even though you might think you're as realistic as possible. But you set them optimistically, and you set with the information you have at the time. When the deadline comes, or ideally sooner, you evaluate like where you are, and you have new set of information and which helps you shape the decision and discussion and plans for the future. So setting the goals and deadlines is important. Breaking them is almost inevitable. So
Right.
it's all about, I guess, that persistence and stubbornness of and I guess willingness to go through. Because again, coming back to what I said before, is always only a question of time. Can be tomorrow, can be in 10 years. Can you wait tomorrow? Yes, you can. Can you wait 10 years? Most likely no. So I mean,
Right. And I think the one idea that came to me when I was thinking about your previous experience of trying things out, pivoting on the spot, that almost kind of feels like you were pushed against a wall and no other way to run away from that. And so the only way to kind of go forward from there is to be extremely creative and innovate your way out of it, or just keep on pushing through. And so I wanted to kind of understand, when you feel that you are pushed against a wall and no good option seems to be presented to you or available at least in front of you just yet. There might be good options available 3 months from now, but as of right now I don't see them. How do you deal with that, or how do you conceptualize that?
I would say if you are pushed against the wall and it's a new experience to you, uh, and or it happens the first time or not, just like it means nothing. It's just the beginning. Unless you're
Right.
pushed against the wall for a month or for like 3 months, maybe for a year, and then you start doubting it. Then that's a good time to try figuring like, okay, like am I really pushed against the wall? So again, more of a masochistic way of running chronic startup, which any founder must be somewhat weird in their mind doing this to themselves. Is the pain is inevitable. Like it's and pain meaning emotional, financial, pressure wise, stress, being pushed against the wall. So if it's the first time you experience it, like That's nothing. You just talk to me in a month or in 3 months, and then we can talk about try to figure out what the solution is. Which means constant pain. So when we were at a given point, like it was obviously the time where things are going up and down, but that helps the belief that you're working on something which makes sense. The decision that you're working on only on this and nothing else. Because also another thing I believe in is like as soon as you start thinking about might get a contract on the side just to get some more money, or do something else, you introduce the distraction, and then it's almost like you can give up at that time on the first thing because you just prolonging the inevitable. If you want to build something, you have to go full on. My belief might not work for everyone, but that's my belief. And the other thing is, and this is something more of a fancy Silicon Valley thing. I think some people from YC were saying it is that. I think the fancy way of saying is the action produces information. I forgot who said that. I think it's the guy from Vox. Anyway, and what that means is if you're put against the wall, just do something. Like there's always something like to do. There's always something on your to-do list, and not necessarily from the product point of view, but from the marketing point of view. There is always some idea you haven't tried yet: marketing, positioning, sales, whatnot. Just go and try the next one. Like go and try the next one. Try it for like a week, day, or whatnot. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do something, and that's where you can find a pivoting opportunity or something. This is where things happen, and you either learn in the worst case, or in an even worse case, you can say, okay, you tried really everything. You don't have this regret, like only if I did that, blah blah blah. Most likely, if you're an optimist, something will work, and then you can just again double down on that and just be like, okay, we're going that direction because we're. Big part of it is the luck, but the luck doesn't come without you trying.
Very. And do you think these are, now I'm kind of thinking about, okay, if I was shared this information while I was growing up by anyone around me, would you say this is a good parenting advice to kind of inculcate in children when you're raising them, to kind of make them optimists, I would say? And
That's a very interesting question.
one
Um,
of the reason I say that is, when, for example, when I got started, both of my parents, I really think I'm blessed by my parents in a way that
mhm.
the question was, will you fail or not? That was not the question. The question was, whatever you're trying to get out of it, will you get that for yourself? When I was, for example, starting the podcast, which is a
Mhm.
very interesting way of thinking about it, and I was very surprised that they would ask me that question, that will do you think you will get what you are looking to get out of it, not what we want, not what it's supposed to get out of it. So it was a very personal question, and I also have noticed that that is not the kind of approach that most parents take with their children, or at least I have not seen that as often.
Yeah, that's true. You have very good parents, which on surface it sounds
Right.
like a great approach, uh, but it's very very individual.
Hmm.
I'm me person. I'm a very stubborn person, and if maybe relating to the same thing we discussed before, like putting constraints and putting certain things in place makes me maybe more lazy and whatnot. So if someone tells me like, well, okay, just like you're not gonna fail, you're gonna learn something, you're gonna basically have the optimistic approach. Well, I'll be like, well, okay, if that's the case, why should I try hard, right? Like rather than if someone, this might fail, I just better go find a stable job because reason is well. Well, no, I've decided I'm going to own it, and I'm going to show you that it actually is doable. So there's a very different reactions people have to these things. Coming back to the original questions, like about parenting and how to do this, you cannot. Like you mentioned your parent, if I'm correct as well. So you cannot just tell someone, okay, this is the way, and you're gonna listen. Like kids are notoriously and especially teenagers, which that'll be fun time, are
Right.
notoriously against anything you tell them. You're almost better off telling them the opposite. Which maybe your parents tried that tactic, just tell you the opposite and were hoping that you're gonna rebel against that. So as with a lot of stuff with parenting, it's a game of trying to wrap wisdom around something and hoping it'll stick. So we'll see what tactic will I use. Me personally, I'm not optimistic person at all. I'm mostly
Really.
realist, if not pessimist. So my wife is the optimist one, so it's maybe her goal to teach the optimism and me tune it down. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I'm not there yet to give any parental advice because again, it's something you almost have to experience to know what works for you and for your own kid. And by the time it's already too late because you cannot go back and teach the same thing to the same kid. Like with a new kid, it'll be all different again. Rather than learning from someone else, it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So I'm maybe more pragmatic in this thing. It comes down to basic. Just be a good parent, be there for them, let them experience their own thing, let them fail if they want to fail. Maybe provide some, I guess, safety nets or some advice, or essentially not even advice, just being like, hey, I went through the same thing. If you struggle, just come to me. We can talk about it. Just go do it. I mean, I might sound too generous right now. Like maybe in 10 years, I'll be like, hell no, you're going to do this because I said so. It's good to have this recording because then they can listen to it and show it in my face. But I want to believe that's what my reaction approach will be. But who knows?
Very interesting. And what makes you say that? Is that like a ideal that you have in your mind? Okay, this is the kind of parent I hope I end up being going down the line.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's all I have at this point. It's just the ideas or expectation of who I will be when the situation happens. Like I guess as anyone, you constantly surprise yourself when you're put in a new situation and like how do you react? You have a certain expectation, then hopefully it turns out as you expect. But there's many times where we just like, oh, this is not what I intended, or this is not what I was hoping for. It just happened. Um, so let's see. I know I'm gonna fail in many things, as in startups. But again, it's a thing you cannot stop. I have a kid. I cannot just stop it. But this paralysis is EDN company. You can anytime decide, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. It has consequences, but you can stop. With parenting, it's without going too dark. You cannot stop, and the kid's always going to be around, and it's always going to depend on you. So just try your best, and something will happen.
Very, very fascinating. Well, I would say, first of all, thank you so much for being so incredibly wise and candid. It was awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I wouldn't call myself wise, but if you say so, I'm gonna take it.
I would say wise because not only you know a lot of things, but at the same time, you keep on correcting yourself that okay, maybe I don't know that, but maybe I don't know. So you are leaving a lot of space for new ideas to form, which none of us know yet. And
Exactly. Like, I mean, everyone should be learning all the
yeah,
time, and that's a big drive in whatever I do. It's if I'm not learning, something is wrong.
yeah,
Because if I'm not learning, that means I know everything, and then means I should be only succeeding, and that would be boring. So, I mean, coming back to the
yeah,
thing, I need to
yeah,
be learning stuff.
yeah.
Again, yeah. Thank you for your time as well. It was amazing. I enjoyed this very much, and hopefully it wasn't too boring, and I'm looking forward to listening to myself.
Yeah. I was it was very interesting. I really enjoyed asking questions, and even the way you answer questions, you go in all different tangents, which basically gives me so many things to think about, ask about. And I did I would say read about the problem space, checked out your website and the product that you're building. And I did not anticipate that we will start with parenting. That was a merry surprise for me as well. So
Well, you never know. That's the beauty of podcast, and I believe the way you run it, it's very open ended, and yeah, it just gives me opportunity to go, like I mentioned, any kind of direction. Uh, just to shameless plug, it's
yes,
Appio.so for whoever wants to go try it.
yes,
If anyone have any question, just reach out to me, and I'm happy to have any discussion about any mobile field or development at all. Sorry,
we will be adding all the links in all the descriptions as well. So it will be
basic.
very, so just a click away. Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you, Michael, so much. And I hope that, if you are visiting SF again, we can catch up again.
Well, I'll definitely hit you up, and yeah, I'll be coming back. I'm not sure when, but I will definitely be coming back.
All right.
Thank you
Yeah.
again. Have a great day.